Hello. We've all been there. A virtual event that's low on energy and even lower on impact. How do you turn a passive virtual event into an active, engaging experience? So that's what we're here to solve. Welcome to Making Events Matter. And I'm Dom Honey from Event Results.
And I'm Steve Bather. And we've spent our career trying to transform simple gatherings into pivotal moments and interactive dynamic events. And today we're going to tackle one of the biggest questions facing this industry, which is how we make virtual events really, truly matter.
Yeah, that's great, Steve. How are you?
All good. Good to see you, Dom. So what do you think? Is the answer virtual to the problems we're seeing with budget and travel constraints and the pressure from government spending reductions and so on? What can we do with a virtual event?
I think that's exactly the reason why virtual is coming back into keen focus by a lot of people that we're talking to, because travel restrictions are coming, especially in the USA. There have been budget cuts all over the place, particularly with governments. And so people who ordinarily would look to bring people together in person, potentially in the States or in Asia or wherever it's happening, those attendees are now struggling to find budget to travel. And it was always tight, but they're now struggling to have budget. And even if they have budget, they might not get a visa, or they might just say, no, I can't attend because I can't take the risk. So we're seeing that more and more. And so virtual is the solution for those organisers who are looking to make their events more budget friendly. And of course, there's no travel time reductions as well for attendees. You can have speakers join from anywhere. So it's a much more flexible, budget-friendly solution for organisers, and arguably better for attendees, but only if the virtual event that you provide is as rich and engaging and interactive with great networking. So it still answers the needs of the event, but it is just hosted online.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned one critical issue there, which is this budget issue. And I think our industry has been quite quiet about actually doing the cost benefit analysis of, say, an in-person event where you've got 250 people in a hotel for a few days. And that massive cost somehow gets lost post-event. In terms of what the actual value and perhaps the return on investment has been. And I think with virtual, we can get very close to those experiences you're talking about in terms of the participant levels of engagement and the ability to connect and to network with others, and of course be stimulated by interesting inputs and have the opportunity to collaborate and innovate and create. And that's all part of how we design these virtual meetings, so that we have that in mind. So the participant experience and what they get from the event is all encompassing.
Yeah, I think, our approach has always been to look at the whole event life cycle. So from the start of the planning, but crucially when you launch a platform or start to build excitement about event, 2 to 4 weeks out, maybe longer, then the event happens. And obviously that's a key moment, a key landmark for speakers, for the host, for the organizer, and particularly for the attendees, making sure that that's of value. But then also in the planning, thinking about the post-event experience, the return on investment, the legacy, the maintaining or building of momentum after the event. And that's what we do. But I think that's quite a challenge for busy event organisers or clients who, and indeed attendees, once they get back from the event, then their focus turns to something else, and that momentum is lost. And so it doesn't matter whether we're in the virtual space producing a great virtual experience or whether it's in person, that still matters. But how do we, or how do you think about participant engagement and interaction? How do we ensure that during virtual events?
Yeah. I mean, I think very similarly in the same way that we design the in-person. So our focus right from the initial design is on engaging participants early. So, using technologies, we'll come and talk about that in a moment, but using technologies to really get people to engage and register and connect with other people and look through what sort of information they're going to be talking about. Quite often we find individuals have to put a business case together for their organization, whether it's a government department or a commercial organization, where they have to justify the cost of them going to the conference. So in the same way, we want that same discipline and rigor to be applied to the virtual. So engaging people early, letting them know what will happen, and giving them a sort of multi-channel opportunity to communicate and connect with other people, including the speakers and presenters and session hosts for the virtual, through a convenient way for them to connect. So, the platforms that we use, the communications that we put in place during that planning session, that pre-phase, are all about trying to show the participants, how they can get engaged earlier into the process. So by the time we get to the actual same time virtual process, the event itself, people are already connected and know what to expect. Yeah. But you're the specialist in terms of the platform. So talk about what you found are the sort of most appropriate and useful platforms out there to support those phases in the process.
Yeah, it's a good question. And obviously, when we're talking specifically virtual, then platforms really matter. They have to be easy to use, they have to be reliable, but they also have to deliver a great experience. And I selected Swapcard 5 years ago in the depths of lockdown, specifically because at that time all events were virtual, but I knew it could work in person as well. But I knew that compared to other platforms, it had the ease of use, it enabled video seamlessly. We worked really hard on ensuring that speaker content, slides would look as good as it could, like a TV broadcast effectively. So content-wise, it would be engaging. But more than that, the networking experience, AI-powered actually, which long before the AI rush of the last couple of years, Swapcard were offering AI-powered networking, which is a great way to start, especially if you're online. It offered presents, so you could see not Christmas presents, but physical online presents. Yeah. So you could see, of your audience who was actually online, even if they weren't in the chat or visible on screen. You knew they were there, and so that immediately attracted me, because I think the number one reason, regardless of format of event, is networking is high on the list of people's aims and ambitions, even though often they rely on serendipity. But the Swapcard platform really does help generate networking, and we've seen great examples of that over the years in terms of the level of connection between attendees or via the platform. So we've got the AI-powered networking, we've got profiles, we've got the video content and other content. Actually, I think it's really, and then what we can do post-event, the Swapcard platform moves into sort of a community phase. So we transition it from the event to where we've got attendees, to the post-event experience, which is more community-based. And so we transition attendees into members and then continue to support the platform over several months. And we've seen amazing uptake post-event, amazing momentum maintained and engagement maintained, particularly on one I was looking at recently. In the last 3 months since the event, we've had something like 65% activity rate on the platform after the event. So this is people coming back, continuing to find the resources, the platform, the networking, the content continuing to find that valuable.
So 2/3 of the people who attended that conference are still active and still contributing through the platform. So there's actual work being done in that community practice in terms of follow up from the conference, which actually was about illegal wildlife trade.
That's right. Yeah, and it's great for the client and the funders to know that the impact of their event was not just on those 2 or 3 days of the conference or the event, but continues on and has a legacy afterwards. And our longest standing community actually is one called One Food. That was an event for 60 people in South Africa 3 years ago, and the community has been maintained. And the last year, again, we saw activity rates of about 60% of the membership, which now numbers roughly 300, were active on the platform in the third year after the first for the initial event.
Amazing. That certainly proves what we're trying to set up. And just to be absolutely clear, one of the criteria for selection of Swapcard in this case is its convenience, but it's also built to high rigorous standards. It's ISO 2027 and 1001, and it doesn't require any downloads on a laptop, and of course there's an app that you can then load onto your phone, so you can get full access there. So it's always a question about, well, where's this from? Where's this app from? We don't want anything on our corporate machines or our government laptops. So that has to be one of the criteria that we use for selecting the particular platforms.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, it is important to corporates and government that data, personal data or otherwise, or sensitive corporate information is held securely on these event apps, and Swapcard has certainly ticked all the boxes when it comes to security. It's a SOC 2 Type 2 tested and all sorts. Not that I understand all of that, but it is important. It's
the highest standards.
Yeah, it's an international standard.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about the interactive tools that we use, during the event, and this I mentioned earlier, multiple channel communication.
Yeah.
So what we're looking for is giving everybody the opportunity to have kind of free and open, transparent ability to contribute at any point during the event. And in hybrid, this is often more difficult to engage people and give them a reason to fully concentrate on what they're watching, because they're being distracted by all sorts of other things, even more so than when they're in person. And we've settled on a tool called XLeap, which has been around for a good 10, 15 years now. It's a facilitator-led design that gives me, as the coordinator, facilitator, MC of the event, the ability to offer participants the opportunity to contribute through commenting or questions at any point during the process. And we have this running live. It's accessible from the Swapcard platform, and it gives people the ability to not only ask questions or record the questions they want to ask in a Q&A, but it allows them to reflect. And one of the features of XLeap that allows this to really help people say what they think is the anonymity. So in groups where there is a hierarchy, or whether there are perhaps multiple organizations in the room, we quite often find that people hold back from saying what they're really thinking. Whereas as the organizer, as the coordinator of this engaging conversation, we really need people to disclose what they're really thinking. And that tool really helps. And what we have is the ability to rapidly synthesize what's being said, pick up on key themes, pick up on key topics, and we have a fully interactive dialogue then with the speakers, so they get the chance to reiterate some of their main points, clear up any misinterpretations or ambiguity that they've left in the audience, and really start the conversation that then carries on during the community of practice phase after the event.
Yeah, and so is it the case that audience feedback is only put in XLeap, or is it a blend of
It's a blend. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the multiple channel, they're quite happy to use the comments. If we're using Zoom or we're using Teams in combination with Swapcard, then they can use the chat function. Of course, that's not anonymous, and it tends to be a kind of a live stream that gets lost, and it's difficult to kind of group things and see themes and what's emerging in terms of the trends in that data. But we do find that people engage with the tool and XLeap in this case, primarily because we're encouraging them to self-document their experience through the live event so that we can then produce reports. And I know we're going to talk about some of the kind of legacy assets and reports that come out of these events, but we're offering the participants the opportunity to create their own version of the experience they've had during the event as part of the collective, and then we make sense of that in producing the reports and the outcomes, and what then becomes the legacy of the event in terms of what now needs to happen and who's going to do what.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, and I think it's important to say that XLeap it's a digital facilitation tool. It's not a chat room or a simple Q&A box. It's a fully featured anonymous platform for people to discuss, share, collaborate, and is vital during a virtual event, even more so than in person, where people obviously have the flexibility of sitting next to one another and having sidebar conversations, etc., or discussions. But as soon as you are in the virtual space, then a really powerful digital facilitation tool like XLeap really does come into its own. I mean, it works great in person, but when we're virtual, then we really do need a powerful way to enable people to have discussions, to reflect, to collaborate, to share their ideas in a psychologically safe way, which is what XLeap does brilliantly. And then you can go to multi-criteria voting and really drill into the detail and be able to have threaded conversations around a particular item or idea or suggestion is not only invaluable during the event itself, but as you say, is really, really important when it comes to post-event reporting and content generation.
Yeah, it's worth checking out. XLeap.net will give you that outline, and you're right. It's a set of 4 tools, but they give you lots and lots of flexibility. So as a professional facilitator, I can find a configuration of the appropriate tool to support that divergent ideation phase, collection of Q&A and perspectives and comments. We can theme things, we can converge things into outcomes and documents, and we can do that multiple criteria rating to really focus on not only the priority of decisions that are being made by a virtual team, but the levels of consensus and therefore the degree of buy-in. And as you quite rightly pointed out, what we're building up to is that psychological safety of allowing people to express their perspective and their position and their ideas that will then lead to a higher level of buy-in when it comes to making a decision. So everybody doesn't need to, as in any other walk of life, agree totally with the decision that's being made, but they've had that opportunity to see how that decision has been made by the group, and then psychologically they're prepared to buy into the outcomes because they see it makes sense, because they've been able to listen and understand and interrogate other people's perspectives. And that's a really important part of good quality decision making.
Perfect. Thanks, Steve. Look, I'm conscious we amazingly are running slightly short of time. Should we just finish off by covering I did mention the post-event experience earlier and this move into community, but should we just talk about the different documentation and reporting that we do post-event? Because you do some of it, obviously, often using the XLeap output, and I do other elements of it, often around the video. So do you want to kick off and then we'll...
Yeah. I think this is a really important kind of area where, as you said earlier, people tend to kind of forget about the post-event phase. They get through it, and then it becomes the sort of the legacy becomes whatever people feel about the quality
Yeah.
of the event. So we're focused on what happens next, because we see the event as the kind of the launch to the next step, whether that's a community of practice focused on one particular set of outcomes, or a project team within an organization who are engaging and running on that project. So we get a lot of data because we're collecting it. You're taking video, and we're getting people to, as I said earlier, self-document the process and their questions and so on. And you and I have both played around with AI over the last couple of years, and we found a really good set of tools that can make sense of all this data and boil it down to the point where it's really appropriate and focused for actually each of the individuals. So we produce the reports, we use AI to produce exec summaries, we theme things, we create easy to read and absorb documentation from all the sessions, whether that's breakout workshops that people didn't attend. They can see the summary of the breakouts that they didn't attend, where you're working in parallel work streams. Perhaps you get a record of what's happened in each of those workshops, so other delegates can catch up and see what's happened in that. What's really accelerated our ability to create really valuable assets are things like Cast Magic and Notebook LM. So you've become an expert at Cast Magic, which we're using to create the transcript from the videos. Tell us a bit more about that.
So as you say, a number of tools are really helping us in the post-event phase, where we're looking to provide more value to the membership or the community, the attendees who are at the event. And what we've found is, when we've got the video, either we've recorded it at an in-person event, or we've obviously got it if we're virtual, we then can get that video transcribed, so we know what all the speakers have said over the course of all the sessions. And we can also take the content from XLeap and we can blend that all together. Cast Magic is a really good way we found to provide that, and then that also can provide a chat function. So it provides us with reports, so really valuable summaries of talks or sessions, which often attendees would like to read. So that's great, that's quick, we can get that up on the platform. But more than that, we can build these AI assistants, and these assistants are then a quick route in for people that are joining the community to find out about the event, or people who attended the event can go back and say what happened in session 2, or what were the overall themes of the day, or what were the key questions asked and answered, and the assistant will quickly provide the responses. And we found that to be a really engaging feature, and continue to give the content life long after the event's ended. And we're also playing around with AI generated podcasts, and just ways to repackage the valuable content from the event in new ways that continue to engage the membership of the community in the post-event phase.
Yeah. And I was talking to one of our clients the other day who said that he had given the Cast Magic transcripts over to a couple of PhD students who were then interrogating the data to find about specific instances of the work they're doing with a particular pathogen, that they would extract all the times that topic had been talked about and by whom, so they could reach out to those people through the community of practice and connect with them about the work they're doing to make sure that they're not repeating anything that's already been done. So a really active, not only for the delegates, and you said, over 2/3 of the participants were still active on the platform. And I know you've added people to the platform afterwards on request of the participants and delegates who were there, because they see the value to other members of their team. So that legacy really does kind of, expand and grow beyond the event, which of course is what we design in right from the beginning.
Brilliant. Well, that's a good way to end I think our second episode. This one on virtual events. I think we could probably sit here for most of today talking about virtual events. We've barely scraped the surface on production or other elements of our approach, but that was great. Really good to chat that through with you.
Yeah. Okay, let's see what the feedback is. And please, if there are any questions or comments, put it in the comment, subscribe, and we'll keep you updated with other episodes under production. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dom.
See you again. Cheers.